Let us pray. Mighty Father, we thank you for the gift of a new day, and we thank you for these masterminds. For our speakers, you're going to listen. Whoever is going to present, may it be a productive session, and we help us to go and use it and implement whatever we've been taught. In the name, I pray that we use it. Amen.
Amen. Okay, people, today we have an amazing speaker. It's been a while since we listened to a lady. After listening to gentlemen all the time, it's a breath of fresh air to listen to a lady present, yeah? And an amazing lady. So please welcome with me, Rosemary Tusabe, to take us away today. Rosemary, you're welcome. We look forward.
Thank you so much, CD. Thank you so much for the amazing opportunity. I'm really, really excited to be here. Very, very delighted. I have a presentation that I'd like to share. I don't know if director is on the call and if he's able to give me hosting rights. I don't see him on the call yet. So I will go ahead and share. Sorry? Okay, I will go ahead and get started. Sorry? Okay. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. And when director joins us, hopefully I'll be able to share my presentation because I'd like for you to follow through as I share. I will begin by introducing myself. I'm called Rosemary Tusabe. I'm the CEO of the multi-billion-dollar global Toddlers Gold Limited. Yes, Toddlers Gold Limited.
International,
global, those ones. So we recently opened up our first physical location last month, which we are very excited about. And what we basically do is partner with educational institutions, with parents, to provide children with the best quality toys and games for meaningful play. We also offer the best pajamas in town and newborn essentials. CD can attest to the gift packs that we now have to give you an opportunity to just shower a new mom with, love in a way that speaks volumes and at whatever your budget is really. Yeah. Director Grace, you've come in with a bang. Are you able to? Yes.
Yes, I've given you rights. You're now host.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much, Director. I had already begun and I was just sharing about Toddlers Gold, that is us. We have just recently opened up our first location, and I'd just like to thank everybody who here has, either given us a call, given us an order, and just come through to support us. We really celebrate you, and we look forward to having more people on board. You can also follow us on our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram at Toddlers Gold. Okay, so on to what we're going to share this morning. This is a topic that I learned while I was doing my MBA a few years ago. And at the time I was employed, but it still made sense. But now that I'm running my own business, I realize that it's very important for me to actually be mindful of the supply chain in which I operate. So I will introduce the supply chain and then we'll go on to learn about what the TripleA actually means. So for a basic introduction, a supply chain is a system of organizations, people, technology, activities, information, and resources involved in moving a product or service from a supplier to a customer. So there's no single organization that operates in isolation. So for example, you might be a baker, but as a baker, you have a supplier. So the most simple supply chain would basically be a supplier, then maybe your organization, if you are a distributor or a manufacturer or retailer, and then the final consumer. So I was giving an example of a bakery. If, for example, you have a supplier who is a manufacturer, you'll find that they will give you maybe the baking flour, the baking powder, and then you're able to make cake and then you sell it to your final consumer. So you'll find that it's not just you operating in isolation. There's a whole chain of other, suppliers, other parties involved in the process. And then you'll also find there's logistics involved, delivery services, transportation services, maybe IT, procurement, different things. So depending on where your organization is, you will find that you have a supply chain, and it's important to know what the role of your business is in the supply chain, such that you're able to use it to the best possible benefit of your organization. And basically, you're moving a product from point A all the way down to the final consumer. And then there's also a flow of information. The customer will give feedback, and then the supplier will see how to make adjustments here and there. So that's basically what a supply chain looks like. So now we're going I'm going to introduce some of the complexities that happen in our current supply chain. Why is it difficult for companies to manage their supply chain? So there are basically three major challenges that we're going to touch on this morning. So one of them is increasing demand and supply uncertainties. So you'll find that recently, we've been dealing with COVID, where there's been a global shutdown for 2 whole years, and you found that companies have had to adapt and sort of change and make sure that they are relevant. Someone maybe who was dealing in a brick and mortar business had to sort of go online to be able to meet and talk to their customers and deliver their products and services. Or you'll find that now Russia, Ukraine has caused chaos here in our economy. Fuel is running between 3,500 and 3,700. The dollar rate last night before I went to bed was at 3,775. And yet just a few weeks ago, it was even as low as 3,400. So there's a lot of uncertainties happening in our economy that are affecting demand and supply, or you'll find that even the customer's tastes and preferences are just changing. A customer today might like, plain colored blouses, and then tomorrow they just like floral things. So how then is your organization able to meet these changes that are currently happening for you to remain relevant and competitive? Because at the end of the day, every single business should be focused on sustainability and efficiency. If you look at those two aspects, you'll find that you are growing a multi-billion-dollar generational business that will continue to exist because you're relevant, but you're also efficient, and you're able to live for the long haul. So the second challenge that is currently affecting companies today is shortening product and technology cycles. So you'll find that in the past, maybe a new product or a new technology would be introduced to the market, and then you find that it maybe spends 2 years on the market without any competition, and people are just enjoying. You'd find maybe a phone, for example, just enjoys airplay for like 2 whole years. But now you find that there is constant change, like every single day. You find that product life cycles have now reduced to even 4 months. You have a new iPhone, and then before you know it, there's the latest iPhone and stuff like that. So you find that product life cycles are increasingly reducing. Technology as well. Every day you find that there is improved technology because businesses are not sleeping. How can we get better? How can we get to our customer faster? How can we, deliver faster? How can we receive feedback faster? How can we do all sorts of things? So you find that there is a lot of technological change. If you sleep for even a minute or close your eyes for a second, you'll be left behind the next day. And lastly, there are multiple outsourced supply chain partners. With the way we are, a global economy now, you find that an organization does not have to focus on doing every single thing in the organization, its entire operations. It can outsource part of its operations, maybe IT or procurement, whatever it is that is not part of the core business, you can actually outsource. And then you'll find that now, as the supply chain grows, there'll be multiple partners on board. So how then do you ensure that with all these different partners, you continue to sing one song, you continue to have a common voice, and the customer continues to receive the best possible product? So now we just look briefly at the implications of these challenges that we are currently facing in this economy. And because of the increased demand and supply uncertainties, there's a need for flexibility. no doubt. If your organization is not flexible, you'll find that you're being left behind every single day. You'll find that you're not relevant anymore. You'll find that there's a new technology that has come, or the dollar rate has kicked you out, or because of fuel prices and you have not adjusted, you'll find that you have actually been kicked out of business. You'll not be as competitive. And then because of the product shortening life cycle and technology as well, there's a need for companies to have dynamic and not static supply chains. If your supply chain is very static, you'll find that you're not competitive, you're not flexible enough for you to adapt to whatever is happening around you in the business environment. And lastly, you'll find that the different players, the different partners all have different interests, but it's important for the business, the different partners in the business to sort of align and have a common voice, a common interest, such that it makes sense for you to continue operating in business and for every partner to be motivated to play their role in the team, right? And that then leads us to the TripleA, because you might be wondering, okay, so what is the TripleA supply chain? So the TripleA is basically 3 words that begin with the letter A. Yeah, hence TripleA. And companies that want to be excellent in performance possess 3 properties. And these are the 3 properties: agility, adaptability, and alignment. So we're going to look at each of these in brief, and we'll see how then your organization can actually be able to become agile, to be able to also adapt to the changes in the environment, and to also have alignment of the different sector players on board. So we'll start with agility. Now, because of the changing environment, companies cannot focus with perfection. So you've seen, because COVID came and there are all these changes, I cannot say anymore with certainty that the next 2 years looks like this. But what I can do is build an agile supply chain whereby in the event that shocks come, external shocks come, we are very agile, we're able to respond quickly to these changes in a flexible way, and be able to continue delivering excellence to our customers, right? So this requires you to really, really know your customer. You'll find that there are situations where companies think they know their customer, but they actually don't, because you'll find that your customer is constantly changing. You might think your customer is a 35-year-old who lives in Nigeria, who earns maybe between 3 million to 5 million, but this is changing. This is changing. So you need to have your ear on the ground. You need to make sense of the information. One professor calls it sensible sense, and then make responsive response. What does that mean? So you'll find that you need to be fast at sensing, very quick to identify what is happening on the market. For example, in terms of customer demand, customer preferences, the market dynamics, and then be able to make sense and see, are we still relevant if we have a location in Tinda, or should we move our location to maybe, I don't know, Muyenga or something? But then you just need to be able to make sense of the information that you have. I'll tell a short story. There's a convenience store in Japan called 7-Eleven Japan. A couple of years ago, 7-Eleven Japan, being a convenience store, is not one of those, malls or high-class stores, but they started selling pantyhose, underwear for women, and they really, really sold. They became the best supplier in Japan. And so one of the managers approached the CEO, Mr. Suzuki, and asked him, okay, since we're doing really, really well with pantyhose, why don't we introduce a whole cosmetic store and just, continue to give women other things that they need, so that we can also build on our income streams and just supply even more product, increase our product line. Then Mr. Suzuki told the manager, you know what we're going to do? We are going to have to do more research to be able to find out whether it's actually women buying these pantyhose. And of course, that sounded strange, because of course men don't use pantyhose. Why would we be doing this? Anyway, they went ahead and did research. They were able to collect data. They were able to collect information from their customers. They would have to, as they were punching in, as your customer comes and they're running things through the system at the store, maybe someone has bought bread, milk, but they've also bought pantyhose, then they would have to estimate their gender, be able to tell, could this be a man or a woman? So they would then note that down. They would estimate their age, whether they are maybe between the age group of 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 50 to 60, something like that. Then they would also mark the time. What time has the customer actually bought? So at the time they went back to see Mr. Suzuki and they had compiled all the analysis. Guess what? They found that majority of the buyers of the pantyhose were actually male. They were actually procuring at about 9 p.m. And then, so they wondered, okay, how is this even possible? Then they found that at that time, majority of the men were working and women were stay-home wives and mothers. So you'd tell your husband on his way home, help me pick some pantyhose. Then the husband would be the one who purchases the pantyhose for the wife. So they found that, okay, it would not be relevant for 7-Eleven Japan to put a whole cosmetics line because the women are not coming to the shop, but it's actually the men. And then what they would do, what would make more sense would be to probably move the pantyhose from where they were to the beer section, because the beer section is where the men actually pass by quite a bit. So I guess that shows you how agile and how you can use sensible sense meaning you have information, but you make sense of the information that you're getting. It doesn't make sense if you get information, if you know that the age group of maybe my clients, majority of my clients is maybe 35 to 45, but you're not doing anything about it. You need to make sense of the information that you receive and then take action, have a responsive response, be able to maybe know that, okay, now maybe I need to move this product from this section of the store to this other section. It will make more sense. So we'll move on to adaptability, which is the second A in the triple chain. Here, you basically need to recognize the market conditions. If there are any changes, then you identify them, and then you might need to change your solution. So what does that mean? You might find maybe you're a manufacturing organization that manufactures, I don't know, maybe anything. And then you find that by the time you set up the plant, the entire plant was in northern Uganda. But then with increasing demand maybe from Kenya, you realize that it doesn't make sense for us to maintain our entire operations in northern Uganda, but we could open up some bit of the factory or the entire factory, move it to Kenya, where it will quickly be absorbed. Or you can find that you can do some bit of the manufacturing in Uganda and move some bit to Kenya. So you just need to be able to adapt to the changes in the market. And there's no end to adaptability because the changes are always happening. So as a business, you need to be aware of what is happening and you need to be able to make changes, make critical decisions within the strategy of your business. And then that might require you to disintegrate the entire supply chain. If it's not working, it's not working. You can disintegrate it such that you're able to take advantage of what is happening in the business environment at that point in time. And then lastly, we'll look at alignment. What is alignment? So as we have seen right now, you'll find that there are different organizations that have decided to focus on particular areas. So for example, the International Procurement Agency that does procurement. You as an organization might decide that that is not your core function and you decide to outsource procurement to IPA, and then you focus on what it is that your core business is. So then you'll find that now you have another party on board, and maybe you decide to also bring in a logistics partner to be able to do transportation for you, or you might decide to have an agent that does sales on your behalf, right? So what does that then mean? You'll have multiple players in your supply chain, but you have to make sure that the interests are aligned, because if they're not aligned, some people will not be able to pull their weight, some partners will not be able to pull their weight, and you'll find that now you're not being able to meet your organization's objectives. So you have to ensure that there's equal sharing of risks, so that provides incentive and motivation to the dealers to continue working hard. Then also, as we depend on partners to produce goods and services, there must be a win-win for everyone. So don't say, because I'm the one doing production and you're the one doing, I don't know, the deliveries, I'm going to make sure I'm doing this in my favor. But you need to ensure that the person also doing the transportation also feels a win-win, also feels a need to be a part of this supply chain. They also need to feel valued. They also need to feel like it's a win-win situation for them. Don't squeeze them and just say, you know, because this is what we can afford, we're not able to do what you're requesting for. Just sit down, have a roundtable discussion, align your values, align what the wins are for the other party, but also yourself. And then maybe you can change how you share costs, the risk and the reward, so that at the end of the day, it's a win-win for everyone. Yeah, thank you so much. I have come to the end of my presentation. And in case there are any questions, any comments, any submissions, you're really, really welcome. Thank you.
Okay, people will be taking questions. If you have any question, you can raise your hand. I can see there's a comment. Director Grace is saying TripleA of supply management. He had forgotten. This is very high level stuff. Gender, age, time, and the rest is just really saying, Rosemary, thank you for a well presented session. But yes, in case there are any questions, additions, or subtractions, please raise your hand, or you could as well go ahead and open your mic and speak. Okay, maybe I'll go first. Rosemary, I'm trying to see how the perception has been that this TripleA is for big companies, the likes of the multi-corporations, Coca-Cola and so on. And I'm just trying to think for my small business. Okay, I bind those words, forgive me, I repent. For my growing business, yeah? Esther Wasoma, for our global businesses, yeah, that are still growing. Does this apply?
It most certainly applies, because you see what then works for you. I'll give you an example. During COVID, we were purely online, right? As a business, as Toddlers Go, we were purely an online business. And then because of a spike, because people were staying at home and they required things, they required a lot of our services. That's when we actually experienced a boom in our business. We then found that, okay, we can supply them. But then now that COVID had gone, we still needed to remain relevant. How can a client still sort of be able to access us? So we then went back and looked at agility. How can we respond to, how can we be able to make sense of the information that we were receiving, which was customers wanted to continue interacting with us. They wanted to see us, they wanted to touch us, they wanted to feel us. So how then would we be relevant? How could we be seen? But also, how could we respond to their continuous request for us to have a physical location? So how were we agile? We were agile in the sense that we listened and we were able to take action. We were able to put up our very first location, and now we are growing. We're already planning for the second. So yes, and then adaptability. Now you'll find that how are you adaptable? If your business is maybe located in a certain area and you can find that it's actually much cheaper for you to move operations somewhere else, or for you to partner with someone else who can maybe do a certain aspect of your business well, then you find that you can actually get them on board. You adapt to the changes that are happening in real time so that you remain relevant and you're able to remain sustainable. And then you always have to keep thinking efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. Are we being efficient? If we're not being efficient, how can we get more efficient? You understand? That's the only way you'll find that your business is relevant and it continues to exist. Yeah, and then alignment, of course, makes sense, because as a business, you'll find that there are other partners that you are working with. How are you working with those partners? Are your values aligned? Are you continuing to just show them that they're actually adding value to you? Is it a win-win? Do they feel valued by working with you? at the end of the day. Yeah. So it makes sense for whatever level, whether you're a multi-billion-dollar global company already like Coca-Cola or Toddler's Gold, yeah, it makes sense. Or whether you're a growing business, it also makes sense. Director Grace, I see your hand up. Over to you. I'm hoping it's a supplement. I'm hoping it's a supplement.
It's a question, sorry. It's a question. Thank you so much for the presentation, TripleA supply chain. Very nice topic. My question is a simple one. Do you think that one of those A's is much harder as the organization grows? Is there any one that is much harder? Because I'm thinking, contrary to what Bishop is thinking, actually, it is easier for a small organization to be very agile. For instance, it's very easy to turn around and say we are now online, we are now in brick and mortar. But as the organization grows, do you think which one would become harder as the organization grows? Thank you so much.
I think for me, the hardest would be adaptability, because you find that there are so many critical decisions that have to be made. In the earlier years, you'd find that industrialization, there are a lot of industries in the US, right? But as Asia began to boom, as there was a growing, market, yes, but also people who are able to work, you'd find that businesses and companies had to make critical decisions to close shop in the US and move all the way to Asia, learn new culture, learn new skills, be able to recruit hundreds of staff, but to be able to produce whatever it is that they were still producing and probably ship it back to the US. You'd find it's cheaper that side because of economies of scale, because of lower labor costs and all that. So for me personally, I think the hardest of the TripleA would actually be adaptability, especially for a bigger organization. But there are always ways around it. Thank you.
Okay. If there are no questions, I don't know if there are any further questions or comments. I can see someone on the group, Ronald, is saying alignment, people tend, okay, I don't know if he's saying people tend to change mindset. I don't know. Okay, maybe Ronald will help clarify more on that. But if there are no questions, maybe then I'll hand over to closing remarks from Rosemary, and yeah, as we look for a presenter for Thursday.
Okay. Thank you all so much for coming today. I hope we have learned a thing or two and we're able to go and actually implement that one thing. You might find you can actually begin by being agile. How can you be agile? How can you just sort of be flexible? How do you receive? I'll give you another short story. Director, I'm learning short stories. On Saturday evening, my husband asked me, I think he's on the call, he asked me to accompany him to a football game. I know absolutely nothing about football, but I went and watched the UEFA Championship. Yeah, and Liverpool was playing against Real Madrid. So there are definitely those factories and those manufacturers who they manufacture jerseys and they do all those things. So now you can find that there are those who are sleeping, those who are not agile, right? And they'll wait for morning, like they'll wake up in the morning and find that, hey, who won? Was it Liverpool? Was it Madrid? And then they'll start printing multiple jerseys and then start looking for market in the morning. And then you might find there's also another one who might print both the Liverpool jerseys and the Madrid jerseys, and then they're waiting to see who the winner is, and then they start pushing that product. Distribution, everyone, push, this is who the winner was. But you'll also find there's one who has very responsive information systems, whereby they are ready to just find out who the winner is. And 1 second later, they just send the order for mass production of jerseys and maybe key holders and all those things of the winning team. And then they take advantage of the winning team and they make more money because they've not wasted resources printing everything and then sending out just one half of the consignment. You understand? So if you're agile, you're able to put information systems in place that actually work for you, and you'll be able to make use of that information in real time, and you'll not just be shooting a moving target. So yeah, those are my closing remarks. Bishop Sidi, over to you.
Wow, that example, I think, nailed it for me. Yes, thank you so much. It's been an excellent presentation. It's very loaded. People will be back on Thursday. And on Thursday, we're having an amazing presenter. There's which will communicate, but we're going to have someone take over where he left off, where he didn't have enough time. So just be ready to come back on Thursday and learn. If there's any presentation that left you hanging, know that might be the presenter coming on Thursday your way. But thank you so much for today. May we be agile, may we be adaptable, and may we be well aligned in our businesses. Have an awesome day.